became independent on 15th August 1947. We all know that. But there was another man who wanted the British gone much earlier, during World War II, and his plan involved escaping India, traveling halfway across the planet, asking Hitler for help, getting into a German submarine, transferring to a Japanese submarine in the middle of the ocean, raising an Indian army, and marching back into India. While this sounds completely ridiculous, except he has done almost all of it. This is Subhas Chandra Bose. And today we are asking, what if the last part worked? Bose was not some fringe revolutionary. He had been president of the Indian National Congress twice. But Bose and Gandhi had a very important disagreement. They both wanted the British out. They disagreed over how. Gandhi believed mass non-violent resistance could make the British rule impossible. Bose believed that was useful, but eventually someone was going to have to deal with the fact that Britain possessed an army. He wanted complete independence, immediately, not after the war, not when Britain felt generous, not after another committee decided Indians required another 20 years of character development. And once India was free, Bose wanted a strong central government, national planning, industrialization, science, infrastructure, and a powerful military. His basic thinking was simple. India had spent centuries being pushed around by stronger powers. That was not happening again. Then, 1939 arrives. Bose defeats Gandhi's preferred candidate and is re-elected Congress president. Technically, he wins. Politically, he discovers that winning an election and getting everybody to work with you are two completely different hobbies. The Congress leadership turns against him. Bose resigns, and then he forms the Forward Bloc, and World War II begins. Britain declares war on Germany, and because India belongs to Britain, India has also had war. Nobody asks India. Empire apparently came with an automatic subscription renewal. Bose looks at Britain fighting for survival and sees opportunity. If Britain is ever going to be vulnerable, this is it. In 1940, the British arrest him. He begins a hunger strike. They release him because one of India's most famous political leaders dying in custody would be somewhat inconvenient. They keep him under surveillance at home. So Bose decides to leave. Not the house, the country. In January 1941, he disguises himself, slips out of Calcutta, crosses into the Afghanistan border, and eventually reaches Nazi Germany. One of the most recognizable politicians in India has disappeared under British surveillance during a world war. British intelligence must have had an excellent morning. In Germany, Bose establishes the Free India Center, broadcasts to India, and helps organize an Indian legion from prisoners of war. But Germany has one fairly serious problem. It is in Germany. Getting a German army into India requires conquering an extraordinary amount of geography first. And by 1942, Hitler had developed another small scheduling error called the Soviet Union. Then Bose looks east. Japan has entered the war and is tearing through Southeast Asia. Malaya falls, Singapore falls, Burma falls. Tens of thousands of Indian soldiers serving Britain become Japanese prisoners. And from those prisoners comes the Indian National Army, the INA. The first INA struggles badly with Japanese control because Japan's idea of an independent Indian ally and India's idea of an independent Indian ally are not exactly identical products. Then Bose arrives, and the method of getting there is insane. In February 1943, he boards a Japanese submarine, travels around Africa, transfers to a Japanese submarine near Madagascar, in the ocean, during World War II. If this happened in a film, someone would complain that the writing was unrealistic. By July 1943, Bose is in Singapore and takes command of the revived INA. Now, it has something it never had before, a nationally recognized Indian leader. Bose recruits aggressively. Indian prisoners join. Indians across Southeast Asia donate money. Women are recruited into the Rani of Jhansi regiment. And Bose gives the movement its famous call, Chalo Delhi. Not let's negotiate, not let's form another committee. Delhi. In October 1943, he establishes the Provisional Government of Free India, Azad Hind. The INA is no longer just supposed to be a rebel army. Bose is claiming India already has a government, his government. Now, here's the important part. Bose's plan was never to take a relatively small INA and defeat the entire British Indian Army one battle at a time. That army eventually grows to around 2.5 million men. The INA simply cannot overpower it. So Bose's real weapon is psychological. Japan breaks into India. The INA crosses the border. Indian soldiers serving Britain see an Indian army marching under an Indian flag. Some defect. Civil unrest spreads. Police, railway workers, and civil servants begin questioning British authority. And if enough of those dominoes fall, Bose does not need to conquer India. Britain simply loses the ability to govern it. That was the gamble. And in 1944, he finally gets his chance. Japan launches Operation U-Go. The targets are Imphal and Kohima. Imphal is a crucial Allied military base. Kohima sits near the route to Dimapur, an enormous Allied supply center. If Japan can destroy the Allied position there, the road into eastern India begins opening. Japanese forces advance. INA units cross into Indian territory. For Bose, this is the moment. After imprisonment, escape, Germany, submarines, and Japan, he has finally brought an army carrying the Indian flag back into India. And then logistics turn up carrying a baseball bat. The Japanese simply have not brought enough food, transport, or supplies. Their plan depends heavily on beating the Allies quickly and capturing British supplies. Essentially, step 1, invade India. Step 2, find lunch there. Unfortunately, the defenders refuse to collapse. Kohima becomes a brutal battle. Imphal holds. Allied aircrafts keep supplying the defenders. Japanese supply lines stretch through mountains and jungle. Then the monsoon arrives. Roads become mud. Disease spreads. Food disappears. Japanese soldiers begin starving. The offensive collapses. Japan retreats. The INA retreats with them. And Bose's chain reaction never happens. Then, everything falls apart. Germany loses. Hitler is dead. America drops atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan prepares to surrender. Bose's entire international strategy disappears in a matter of months. And on August 18, 1945, Bose boards a Japanese military aircraft in Taiwan. Shortly after takeoff, it crashes. He suffers severe burns. According to the accepted historical account, Subhas Chandra Bose dies later that day. He is 48, and that is where his story ends, at least in our timeline. Now rewind, because this is where we change history. But Bose does not get magic powers. Hitler still loses. Japan still loses. America still wins. We change only what might realistically have changed during the invasion of India. So what does Bose actually need? First, logistics. More food, more ammunition, more transport, more engineers, more supply dumps. Importantly, Japan stops assuming that British supplies will conveniently become Japanese supplies later. Second, Dimapur. This is where things become fascinating. In real history, Japanese commander Mutaguchi wanted to push beyond Koima toward Dimapur. His superior refused. Dimapur laid outside the operational boundary, and after the war, British commander William Slim acknowledged how dangerous losing Dimapur could have been. So, our biggest alternate history change is not a miracle. It is one of a Japanese general hearing yes instead of no. Japanese forces push towards Dimapur. The Allied supply network in northeast India starts breaking down. Third, the airfields. In real history, Allied power kept Imphal alive. So in our timeline, Japanese attacks and INA sabotage concentrate much harder on airfields, fuel, and communications. Air supply continues, but badly. Now both sides have logistical problems. And then Bose finally gets what he wanted. Not just a Japanese victory, an Indian reaction. INA broadcasts spread through Bengal and Assam. And Bose asks one devastating question. Why are Indians fighting Indians to keep Britain ruling India? At first, almost nothing happens. Then one unit defects. Then parts of another. Then some soldiers surrender rather than fight the INA. Not millions, not overnight, but enough. Because now Britain has to start asking, which Indians can we trust? And when an empire has to ask that question, things become uncomfortable very quickly. Imphal falls. The INA is now visibly inside India. Bengal erupts. Strikes, railway sabotage, demonstrations, workers refusing military cargo. And this is not pure fantasy, because something very similar happens in our real timeline anyway. In 1946, after the INA had already lost and Bose is already dead, the Royal Indian Navy mutinies. Thousands of sailors join. Strikes and demonstrations spread. And one of the sparks is public anger over the trials of INA officers. So our timeline does not invent military unrest. It simply moves it earlier, with Bose alive, with the INA standing on Indian soil, and with Britain still fighting a world war. By late 1944, Japan is losing badly in the Pacific. So from this point onward, Japan stops being the engine of the story. Japan kicked the door open. Now India has to do the rest. A major Indian formation refuses British orders. Then smaller units follow. Some arrest British officers. Some simply disappear. Railway workers strike. Police become unreliable. The British can still fight, but they are losing something more important than territory. They are losing the machinery required to hold India. By early 1945, they withdraw from Calcutta. Bose enters the city, not in some glamorous parade. The city is battered, food is short, thousands have died. But Azad Hind now controls a major Indian city, and Bose gives the order again, Chalo Delhi. Now Britain has to make a calculation. Germany is collapsing. Britain is financially exhausted. Nationalist unrest is spreading. The reliability of sections of the Indian military is uncertain. And to crush Bose completely, Britain would have to fight a huge campaign inside a country of hundreds of millions, while potentially fighting the very Indian soldiers it previously relied upon to control it. And even if Britain wins, what exactly has it won? Another 5 years of governing a population that clearly wants it gone? At enormous military and financial cost? Congratulations! You have successfully won India's most expensive administrative nightmare. Then the political dam breaks. Congress demands British withdrawal. Gandhi demands an end to the fighting. Nehru demands transfer of sovereignty. Patel begins dealing with provincial administrations. Jinnah demands Muslim safeguards. Bose refuses to disarm until Britain leaves. Everyone is still arguing, but notice what has changed. They're no longer arguing about whether the British leave. They are arguing about what happens after they leave. And that argument has a name: independence. By mid-1945, London finally makes the calculation. Britain has won the World War, but holding India now means fighting an Indian Revolutionary Army, risking wider mutiny, containing mass unrest, and paying for it all, while Britain itself is nearly broke. So Britain does what it was eventually going to do anyway, just earlier. It agrees to leave. And this is where our history completely breaks. No Mountbatten transfer in 1947. No 15th August 1947. No simultaneous birth of India and Pakistan. Instead, sometime in 1945, Bose stands in Delhi. The British flag comes down. The Indian flag goes up. The INA becomes the nucleus of India's new army. India is independent. India has not yet been partitioned. And Bose is alive. It sounds wonderful until you look outside India. Germany is gone. Japan is about to surrender. America is now enormously powerful. Britain may have lost India, but Britain has won the war. Bengal is recovering from famine. The government is broke. Jinnah still wants Pakistan. Gandhi hates Bose's authoritarian instincts. Nehru wants democracy. Patel just wants to know who controls the princely states. Hundreds of millions of people need food. Trade needs to restart. Factories need to be built. And somewhere in London and Washington, someone has just opened a folder named Subhas Chandra Bose. Bose has successfully completed the easy part. He has defeated the British Empire. Now, he has to run India. Stay tuned for part 2.